I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please? Just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go! I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding? No, you won the fight.
OMG. I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of Mixed Combat Radio. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter, writing solo dolo today. Rob's busy. Foo's at work. I'm all alone. Gary, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Before we get to anything else, it's a little bit of promo time for what we have launched. We have launched a new YouTube channel. Yes, you heard it right. A new YouTube channel. Don't worry. Mixed Combat Radio is not going anywhere. It's still here. As you can see, we're doing a show. Don't worry, guys. It's okay. It's okay. But we do have a new channel, which is going to get a lot more content. It's definitely going to be ramped up, especially just as it's been launched yesterday. So expect a lot more content to be sort of promoted through Mixed Combat Radio of this new channel, just because obviously this is the channel that we started way back in the day, and now we're starting a new one. So we're obviously going to promote this new channel through Mixed Combat Radio. Hope it's okay with everyone. But our new channel, Trending Now Network, you can go check it out. I'll post the link right here in the live chat for anyone that has not subscribed yet. We just did our first inaugural sort of show for the Trending Now Network, even though we have done Trending Now a while. Obviously, for those that pay attention, Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, we've done that on Mixed Combat Radio, and that was originally a Patreon show. We've now changed that. It's now its own YouTube channel, its own thing entirely, and now Mixed Combat Radio falls under the Trending Now Network umbrella, especially in terms of podcasts. So those that are maybe looking for us in podcast form, you can probably still find us as Mixed Combat Radio, but if you cannot find us, search Trending Now Network or Trending Now Podcasts. We are going through the process of trying to figure out how the podcast is going to be laid out. And also, we did our first show, so to speak, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spoiler review. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino's 9th film. Go check it out. But yes, we're really happy about that. I'm happy about that. Took a lot of work to get to this point. Took some money, so we invested some money into this that went away from the budget for MCR in some fashion. But don't worry, content's not going to be taken away from this channel at all, and we're not going to really slow down in terms of content for this channel. So again, Trending Now, go check it out, go support, and as we expand the brand. But digressing, we do have a lot of boxing topics to get to. Obviously, fights to cover this weekend, some news, some fight announcements, and unfortunately some tragic stuff to get to in the boxing world again, as it seems. And, you know, I hope one day, though, excuse me, though it's never going to happen, that, like, we can take a break from these amount of stories. But another fighter has unfortunately gone to the hospital and is fighting for their life right now. And it's someone that's close to home. Jose Luis Castillo's son has been hospitalized after a sparring session. His name's Christian Castillo. Obviously the son of the former world lightweight champion who famously gave Floyd Mayweather some of his toughest fights. His son is now in the hospital fighting for his life due to brain damage and brain hemorrhaging. This is tragic. Prayers, thoughts to the Castillo family. This is just, it's really depressing. Like, I'll be honest. When I woke up to this news this morning, I kind of didn't want to do a show, to be quite honest. I just didn't feel like it. It got me in a way. This, especially, funny how, not funny, it's just interesting how the brain works, right? Because maybe a day or two ago, Brian Custer, right, of Showtime, he posted a video of his son sparring. And I was like, man, kids sparring, I've never been the biggest fan of it. And then a day or two later, this news pops up, and I'm just like, oh, man. For all the dads out there that have sons sparring and sons in training, I mean, how do you deal with this? This is just tough. And as a father with a son who's thought about, trying to get him to boxing in some fashion, sparring can be hell just as much as the fights, if not more. And again, prayers out to the family, to the loved ones here, and let's hope that he can pull through, honestly. We're going to have to sort of transition topics the best way we can, just by transitioning. Again, prayers to the Castillo family. Let's hope he gets better, guys. Let's rally around them as a community, as a boxing family. Let's hold each other up. Let's support each other. But let's transition to the fights this weekend, because there were some really, really good fights this weekend, and some intriguing ones we can talk about. Even the Showtime card, which I know got some criticism, as usual, with the Gervonta Davis fight, where he fought a guy that really isn't to his level, but there's some actual really good substance we can talk about with that card. But first, obviously, the Jose Ramirez knockout of Maurice Hooker has to be the marquee topic of the show, and we have to talk about it. We have to uplift this fight in every way. It's two guys undefeated from rival networks, rival promoters, coming together for a big fight. The bigger star, in a sense, or draw, even though I wouldn't say Ramirez is really that much of a star. He's a regional star, but not really a star in the sense, right? Not like the way we can now maybe say that Earl Spence is a star. Ramirez isn't that, right? He can't hold down a pay-per-view, but he can sell out 15,000 seats, no problem, in his hometown. That's good. That's a good regional star. He can do decent numbers on ESPN. So, again, good regional star. Hooker, sort of bringing him to his network, paying him this big, $4 million paycheck to come over here to risk his O, it just should be applauded. And on top of that, similar to like Pacquiao Thurman in a way, when you make good matchups and they produce great action, great entertainment, I mean, how can you not be just enthusiastic as a fan of the sport? This fight was back and forth. It was fun. It was competitive. Ramirez, I would say, though, the through line was him being the aggressor, him being the one first, throwing first, landing first often, and really dictating the pace and the tone of the fight, and Hooker trying to adapt and ultimately failing and getting knocked down the 6th round against the ropes. You got to say, just fantastic showing from Ramirez. Not only do we see some improvement from his game, or just him showing levels of his game that he hadn't really needed to show before, but his lateral movement, his head movement, his overall hand speed, just things that were quite impressive, to be quite honest. I wasn't expecting that from Jose Ramirez. 92 in the chat saying, I'm still fired up. I am too. Like, it's weird how in the span of 2 weeks we've had some tragic stories, in the same time some of the better fights of the year and some of the better matchups of the year. And it's this like duality of the sport where, yeah, we get great fights, but we also get the tragedy of it. And Lou DiBella, credit to him, he was on the Era Hawani show. That's an MMA show, I know, but Lou DiBella Boxing, go watch it. He was talking about the dangers of the sport and how we as a community just need to talk about it. Like, we don't talk about it enough. And he brought up, obviously, Gotti Ward, which, for any boxing fan, that's in our wheelhouse. Like, that's in our DNA, so to speak, as a fan, is that trilogy of fights. And, he came out and said, point blank, one of them's dead and one of them has CTE now. And, how do you come to grips with that? We applauded and praised those wars in the early 2000s. Why? Because they were wars. They truly were. They were blood and guts. And look at what's happened now because of it, in a way. It's weird. Again, just the duality of the sport. We can have great fights, great matchups, but they produce a very negative human cost. So Hooker coming out, and I don't have it up, but he was out on Boxing Scene, and I think it was maybe Ryan Burton or someone. And he said, to the question of the stoppage, thank God the ref stopped it. I didn't want to be the next guy in the headlines, talking about referencing Maxim Dadashev and Hugo Centillion. And Hooker's right. I think hopefully fighters, hopefully fans, hopefully the community are more okay with early stoppages. Even me, more okay with corner stoppages, more okay with just, hey, if you're not winning this fight, why are you taking the punishment, man? Live to fight another day. Just live. Live for another day. But digressing from that really depressing point, sorry, it's on the mind with all the news lately, guys. I apologize. Ramirez Hooker, back to sort of the in-ring things I saw. Hooker, his inside fighting ability sort of failed him, or I'd say the lack of ability failed him here. Because when he was on the outside, when he was throwing a combination, he was landing on Ramirez. He was actually being quite efficient at times when he was throwing in 2s and 3s on the outside, at times even hurting Ramirez. But Ramirez, to his credit, was always able to consistently get around those shots and getting in on the inside, and he was just quicker to the draw every time. If there are old Western gunslingers, Ramirez was the one drawing and shooting first every time. And Hooker just really couldn't adjust to that. On top of that, Ramirez's body work. Wow. The left hook to the body, the right. I mean, he was just vicious and methodical with it. And, he never really strayed off of his game plan. Ramirez just did everything right. Great performance from Ramirez. And to Hooker's credit, I still saw enough from him that I still think he is a top 5-ish guy in the division, obviously. But there is work to his game. He does need to sort of shore up his inside defense and offense overall. And seriously look at maybe moving up in weight. Not to say that those guys aren't going to give him probably more issues, but he may fill out more. I think that might be an issue. I think he's cutting so much weight that his body can't feel like he can't get the necessary muscle mass on his shoulders, on just his back, just overall the muscles he needs to bully people around on the inside. And that's what Ramirez was able to do, bully Hooker around. If Hooker if he didn't have to cut 7 pounds and be able to sort of add some more muscle, I'm curious to see how that would look. I am. Because you saw Hooker and Terrence Crawford walked out. Hooker was bigger than him. He was. Shout out to Ramirez. Obviously, what's next for him is what I want, and what everyone wants is the winner of Progress Taylor. Does that happen next? I don't know. I wouldn't mind, though, if he took, let's say 6 months off and he wanted to fight in the first quarter of 2020 against the winner of Progress Taylor. I'm okay with that. He had a tough fight here, and he's honestly been in a lot of tough fights recently. Ramirez wanted some time off. I'm okay with that, man. Go spend time with your son, your family. Go enjoy it. Moving on, co-main event, Tevin Farmer versus Guillaume Frenois. God, Farmer, I mean, he is so impressive defensively. He really is. But offensively, his lack of power is so limiting to what he can do against guys that really shouldn't be there with him, to be quite honest. Fenois is he wasn't a guy that really should have given anyone in the top 5 some issues, and he didn't give it Farmer issues, I should say. But Farmer, you can see that certain guys will be able to capitalize on his lack of offensive ability and power in ways that these these sub-20 ranked guys really can't. Gervonta Davis, who we're going to get to, I think bullies him around. I think finishes him. Miguel Burchelt, I think sort of does the same. Though Farmer can probably have an easier time maybe outboxing Burchelt at times than Davis. But Farmer, he's been very active recently. Shout out to, obviously, just making money and being active and working. But his level of opposition has been, again, subpar, to put it lightly. And I would like Farmer to get a massive step up. We're going to talk about, obviously, Gervonta Davis and him in a bit. But that's the fight I want. That's the fight I think everyone wants. This fight that Mayweather and everyone else in that team after the Showtime event last night or Saturday night said they wanted. So we'll talk about it, obviously, in a bit. Joey DeWalco picked up a win as well in a really sloppy heavyweight fight. Nikita Ababi picked up a win as well. UD didn't look that impressive to me, quite honestly. Not saying that he didn't look good, but just didn't see the extra bit of it factor with this game that I wanted to see. Like in Austin, Mo Williams also picked up a massive win in the first round, knocked out his opponent with rib-breaking body shots. God, that was just nasty. And some other fights on the card, which I won't get to, which maybe Rob will delve into in depth in the chat or something. Moving on to the Showtime card, Gervonta Davis versus Ricardo Nunez. Again, speaking of matchups against subpar competition, Ricardo Nunez somehow became a mandatory and somehow got into this fight. And obviously, we all know what happened because of that. Gervonta Davis. Leonard, I'll get to that news. Don't worry, Leonard. I see it. Don't worry, I got the news, Leonard. You know me. Gervonta Davis knocked out Ricardo Nunez in just devastating fashion. Oh, my God. I truly do not care to see Gervonta Davis against anyone else that isn't a top 5 name. That isn't really Burchelt, Farmer. No, that's about it. That's about it. I really don't want to see Gamboa, even though I can understand why they make it, like why they would match it up. Don't care to see it. Don't care to see Leo Santa Cruz, which we're going to get to in a bit. Those are fights I don't fundamentally care about in any way. Davis versus Farmer, absolutely. Davis versus Burchelt, absolutely. But God, Davis against anyone that's not those guys is going to be just a dominant performance at this point in time. He's too powerful. He's too big. He's too strong for this weight class. And honestly, his boxing ability is really good. That's one thing that we don't give Davis enough credit for is just his actual technique, which is probably the best, if not the second best in the division, right? If you're arguing pure technique, the only guy that you can argue has better boxing technique than him would be Farmer, right? But you just think that Davis would have other factors to his game that would make him better, right? But honestly, you can make the argument that Gervonta Davis is the best boxer in the division. That's not a hard argument. It's just that he hasn't been fighting anyone of note since really Jose Pedraza. And no offense to Cuellar, or even Abner Maurice, who was scheduled but didn't happen. But those are featherweights. Those aren't super featherweights. I don't care to see that. That's why I don't care about Leo Santa Cruz. I don't care about a Leo versus Tank fight because Leo, I'd rather see fight Jerry Russell, which we're going to get to in a bit. Moving on, a potential next opponent for Gervonta Davis, Yuriorkis Gamboa knocking out Roman Martinez. God damn, Roman Martinez taking a long layoff, obviously, since the Lomachenko loss. Gets knocked down in brutal fashion against Gamboa. And probably sets up a win, or I should say a fight with Gervonta Davis. I will say this, though. Gamboa obviously looks like an old fighter fighting, but holy shit, Robert Martinez looked like a mummy in there. I hope he never fights again, to be quite honest. Moving on, Ladarius Miller defeating Jezreel Corrales via controversial decision. I scored the fight for Jezreel Corrales, and I honestly do not see how you score it for Ladarius Miller, even with the point deduction in the 10th round, which was just ridiculous and some of the one of the worst reffing point deductions I've seen, at least in recent memory, right? At least in the last year or so. That's one of the worst I've seen. Jezreel Corrales out-threw him, outlanded him, was the better boxer. He did struggle at times, like working his momentum in, working his combinations, because Ladarius Miller was tricky, was awkward. But Miller never really sustained any long periods of offensive success or just beating Corrales. Like, he had moments, like he had shots. You can honestly like look at every round and make the argument that Corrales won every round. You could. I wouldn't, but you could. Because Miller never really had sustained periods of offense, ever. But, again, Ladarius Miller winning via controversial decision. Jezreel Corrales getting his now third loss. It's going to be interesting to see what he does next, because that Machado KO loss was huge and put him back significantly. This loss seems like, even though one I don't agree with, it seems like it's going to push Corrales back even farther from public consciousness, unfortunately. But moving on to sort of speak on Gervonta Davis, Leo Santa Cruz, with the headline, I Can Pressure, Break Down, Wear Out Gervonta Davis by Ryan Burton of Boxing Scene. Full quote saying, I want to fight Gary Russell or Josh Warrington. I want those unification fights and maybe a third fight against Carl Frampton, or even move up to 130 and fight Gervonta Davis. We're looking for another world title. We're a 3-division champion and we want to be a 4-division, so we're going to see what opponent they bring me and go from there. We want to go in August, but now we have to move it back to November, blah, blah, blah. Moving on. This is Ryan Burton speaking. As for which fight is his preference, Santa Cruz said that he would love to face Davis next. Davis defends his WBA super featherweight title on Saturday against his mandatory challenger, Ricardo Nunez. Direct quote from Leo Santa Cruz. I think Davis, I want that 4th title. He is undefeated, so I know he's going to bring it. I know that I can beat him, and it will be a great fight. Look, Leo, you were right when you named the first person, Gary Russell Jr. Fight Gary Russell Jr. on Fox main event. Just make me happy. Make me happy. Please, Leo. Please. For the love of God. I don't want to see you fight Gervonta Davis. Like, let's make the right fights for the sport, for the divisions. Like, this isn't hard. And to be honest, why I'm not really putting much stock in this, because he isn't saying it. But if Leo was coming out because he's a big guy and saying, man, it's really hard to make the weight now. I'm older now. I'm probably in his early 30s now. I want to move up. I want to move up to 130, then maybe 135. Like, that's what I'm looking at now. I'd be like, okay, Leo, like, you're a gigantic guy for the weight class. You're longer in the tooth. I get it. But that's not what he's saying here. He's saying, I just want a 4th title in a 4th division. So give me Gervonta Davis. And again, may I add, for speaking for everyone in boxing, I don't want that. I don't think any of us want that. I think a Leo Santa Cruz fight versus Gary Russell Jr. is far more competitive and interesting than Leo Santa Cruz versus Gervonta Davis. And again, to add, Gervonta Davis versus Tevin Farmer would be a far better fight. But I know some are not expecting that to happen. And speaking of the 130-pound division, Jamel Herring and Lamont Roach Jr. have agreed to terms for a November 9th 130-pound, air quotes, title fight, obviously, for the WBA regular belt. And I think it was Gary. Let me find your exact comment, Gary. Sorry. Because Gary mentioned all the matchups that he thinks would happen. Here you go. Tank Farmer fight not happening next. Probably Tank versus Gamboa. Herring versus Roach. Cancio versus Diaz, which I really like, and Berchelt versus Valdez, because Valdez mentioned that he would like fighting Miguel Berchelt, and Farmer left in the cold again. Yeah, it does seem like that's probably going to happen, but to be optimistic here, please give me what? God. Tank versus Farmer. Hank versus Roach is done. Cancio versus Berchelt would be amazing. I would take that. And then how about Joseph Diaz versus Gamboa? And Valdez stay at 126 pounds and fight Josh Warrington, Garros Jr., Leo Santa Cruz, or your mandatory Shakur Stevenson. Like, that would be amazing, to be quite honest. Matthew D'Souza in the chat saying Farmer versus Joseph Diaz. That's obviously a possibility. It's been talked about for a bit now, I want to say. And I think that Farmer mentioned if he can't get a big fight next, he would fight Joseph Diaz. So that is a possibility as well. I wouldn't mind that fight. Moving on, though. Next piece of news. And one that I'm going to get, not necessarily a conspiracy theory about, but just like a real, like maybe like a stoner thought about like this story. And like maybe it's ramifications 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. But Devin Haney versus Abdulaev, title eliminator, likely to land on that Mexican Independence Day weekend in Las Vegas, because obviously Haney lives in Las Vegas, and he's going to headline the card. And obviously names like Usyk and others have been attached to be on the undercard. And I will say, in an age where, for the first time in God, how long, people, has either Cinco de Mayo or Mexican Independence Day weekend been headlined by a person not named Mayweather or Canelo? And on top of that, it's Devin Haney. And Devin Haney has been paralleled with Floyd Mayweather since he has started, right? I would not be surprised if in 5 years from now, guys, we're talking about Devin Haney being like one of the biggest names in the sport, a dominant lightweight champion. Maybe talking about him moving up to welterweight and fighting some big names up there. And he is fighting on, May 5th and September 14th. And he's fighting on Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day weekends. And he is now that guy. He has now taken that throne, so to speak. Now, obviously, this is maybe 3-5 years from now, but in the same breath, we still have Canelo, obviously going to be active on those dates. But just look at the dates now for Devin Haney. See if he's on Canelo undercards or such for the next Cinco de Mayo. I'm just curious if they're positioning Devin Haney to be that guy. Because in today's age, largely due to Floyd and others, when you fight on Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day weekends, and those are your weekends in theory, you're going to be compared to Floyd, and you're seen as someone special. And I do think they're trying to do that with Devin Haney, even on a subconscious level. They may not even ever mention it, even though it's Eddie Hearns. I think he will mention, like, hey, Floyd Mayweather, Canelo always hold this date. Now it's Devin Haney. He's the future. I guarantee you Eddie's going to talk about it, but it was set up to be a subconscious, hey, Haney is now the successor to these dates. I am just curious about that. Matthew in the chat saying, Matt, does Haney have to keep his O? Oh, you just retracted the message. I think the message was, does he have to keep his O to sort of be this figure? And I would say no, obviously, because look at Canelo. He's had an L with Mayweather. On top of that, he's had several fights where people think he's lost. So, no, that doesn't matter. It really doesn't. 92... saying, I would be surprised because you're comparing him to Floyd. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm just saying, like, I think they're going to compare him to Floyd. Like, they're putting him on this date to compare him to Floyd, in a way. Matthew, changing the question, does Haney have to be, to be able to be that guy as fighting Loma who will ruin that? No, he could lose to Loma. Like, losing to Loma, I don't think hurts Haney long term. It might hurt Haney in the very short term, obviously, compared to him beating Loma. But nah, I mean, losing to the greats, or an all-time great potentially, or, a pound-for-pound guy, I don't think that's a big knock. I really don't. I've never been of that mindset. 92 saying all promoters want their young prospect to be a superstar. Yes, but 92, you have to agree that these dates have specific connotations to it. There are specific people that are tied to these dates. So, hold on. I think, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. I do apologize. But hold on. I think my kid's knocking on the door. I'm like, what are you doing? Be right back. I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. Him and the babysitter needed help with the TV. And as you can see, I'm the tech guy, so the babysitter can figure that out. Anyways, digressing. What was I talking about? Last thing. Haney. Yeah, I think I said everything. Like, Haney is put attached to these dates to be connected to Floyd in specific ways. And I applaud that in a way. Like, I can see what they're trying to do with that. So credit to them. Moving on, though, really unfortunate topic right here. Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. robbed at gunpoint in Mexico City, writes Miguel Rivera via Boxing Scene. And I want to say this has happened before, and it's concerning. I really hope that Chavez can have maybe better security around him or afford security around him, because he's the type of guy that people are going to look at and say he's a celebrity. He has money on him. Like, that goes everywhere in the world. Like, if you're a celebrity, people are going to look at you a certain way that you have money, and certain people are going to look at you like we can take advantage of that. I should be honest about it. Matthew in the chat asking a question, because I'm solo, I'm going to answer a lot more questions from the chat, guys, as you can tell. And obviously call in. Gary, Santiago, I assume you guys have called in. Let me see. Yep, you guys have called in. I'll get to you guys. We're almost done with the topics. Don't worry. You guys have been on the line for like 30 minutes. I apologize. And also, sort of midway promo. Again, Trending Now Network, guys. I will be live later tonight to go and break down all of the Marvel slate for the future. Phase 4, Phase 5, the announced Blade movie with Mahershala Ali, Fantastic Four, X-Men, all the new stuff from Marvel. I'm going to break it down live on this network. Digressing back to boxing. Let's move on to the next piece of news. Actually, last topic of the day, then we'll go to callers. Unfortunate news, not in the same way that the other news we had to talk about, but Jose Benavidez, who obviously had his fight canceled, with Luis Collazo. He has now been arrested for alleged street racing. So, it's unfortunate. Thank God it's not a super violent thing like we're going to talk about probably on Wednesday when it comes to Marcus Brown and him facing an indictment for another felony charge for domestic abuse and violence. And he's fighting on Fox. But still, Benavidez, come on, man. Get your shit together. Like, you just had a fight canceled. Like, I hope this wasn't, you trying to blow off steam because you didn't get your fight, to be quite honest. Like, I really hope that's not the case. Matthew saying it's kind of quiet on Bivol. When's he out? When's he next out? I think Bivol's fighting on the zone probably against some guy who we don't care about. Just being honest. Let's go to callers. Gary in Dallas. Gary. What's up, man?
What's going on, Matt?
Doing good, man. Just living the life.
No Rob today?
Nah, Rob was doing some family stuff.
Is Fugatti, is he still on the show, or what is this? Does he just make an appearance once in a while so he can tell girls that he has a podcast? Is that
That's
doing?
exactly why Fu does the podcast, is so he can tell girls he's on a podcast. Yes. Because there's nothing like going out to bars and picking up girls and saying, hey, I'm on a podcast. Works wonders, trust me.
When was the last time Fu was on a show?
This weekend, bro. He did the Hooker Ramirez live fight chat.
No, not the like a scheduled show, like a
he
Monday
does.
Show or.
I mean, he has to have a day off of work.
Okay.
Like the benefit of, let's say, like Rob and being in the UK is that the time difference actually works for us because he gets done with work when I need to work, while Fu is working his day job when I need to do stuff for the site. Because I work either really early in the morning or really late at night for my day job. That's what I do. So my midday is where I get shit done. From like 10 a.m. to like 5 p.m. is when I can work on the show. Early morning I can't. Late at night or evening I can't. Usually speaking.
Okay.
So that's why me and Fu like run into issues with scheduling.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you want to start with? Let's start with Hooker. Let's start with that fight.
Well, first off, you were at the fights, right, Gary?
Yeah. I had 4 seats. It was.
Tell me about it.
I'd say it was great. First off, I met Devin Haney at the weigh-in.
Nice.
Really cool guy. And I met Regis Prograis, who was just there. I was on the floor, and I had the VIP seats. I was walking to the bathroom, and who was standing there? Rougarou, Regis Prograis, standing there. He is probably the coolest guy I ever talked to. I'm a huge Rougarou fan now. I just ask him questions, he just gives you straight out answers, right? I was like, do you have a preference? He's like, well, I pick Ramirez. I think Ramirez will win. I'd rather fight Ramirez, and Ramirez is a bigger payday, so I want Ramirez to win, right? I said, are you going to go over to the UK to fight Taylor? He's like, if they pay me enough. But there was no bullshit with him. Everything was just you asked him a question, and he gave you a straight answer. And he is not a big guy at all. I stood next to Haney.
Mm-hmm.
I got a picture with Haney. I sit next to Regis. I got a picture with Regis. Haney's bigger than Regis is.
That's not surprising. Prograis is a short guy. He's stocky, but he's short. Haney is tall and lanky and has that long frame. It's just different.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you because at 140 he was eating cookies the whole way. I'm eating cookies when I make 140, no problem. So I mean, I can see that he could probably go down to 35 if he really wanted to. He was not a big dude at all. I don't. When you see him, we're talking about Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia doesn't look that big, but if you ever see him in person, Danny Garcia is way bigger.
Yeah,
than you think.
big. Yeah.
Pause,
but yeah.
Regis Prograis was the opposite. He looks pretty solid and stuff on TV. He did not look big at all. He was a little guy. I mean, he could probably go on 30. So I don't really see, after seeing him in person, I don't see him going up to fight Errol Spence. If you ever stood next to Errol Spence, Errol Spence looks like a linebacker who's 5'10". You know what I'm saying? It's I can't see those two guys mixing it up. or even like Danny. Or like Danny is so much bigger than Rougarou. I can't ever see Rougarou going up to 47 to fight one of the hitters. I just can't see that.
Yeah, I'm only going to say this because it's really funny in the chat. 92 saying, think he is not a big guy in the bathroom. You thought this?
I could see.
You go up next to the urinal. Oh, man, he's not that big. It's like, oh, damn, Gary. Okay.
He'd be a lot bigger, yeah. No, I was walking to the bathroom, and he was standing in the hallway by the dressing room.
Oh, yeah, sure. Try to clean it up now, Gary. Try to clean it up now, sure. Yeah. Anyways, Gary, back to the fights. Sorry to get you off track.
Okay, to the fights themselves. First question is, why was White Chocolate Nikita Bobby trained by Lil B Hop?
I didn't notice that. He's trained by Lil B Hop?
Yeah, it was his cornerman for the fight was Chris Colbert, Lil B Hop.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they didn't match him that tough, but really, I mean, you're not even going to bring a trainer. You're going to bring your buddy with you to. Is Chris Colbert also a DAZN guy, or who's?
No, he's PBC. He's PBC, bro. He's PBC.
What was that?
He's PBC.
He's PBC?
Yeah.
I thought it was Top Rank. Okay.
No. That's Greer. Joshua Greer's Top Rank.
Yeah.
B Hop, Lil B Hop is PBC.
Yeah, I can't figure out where is I just could be why he had Chris Colbert in his corner. Like that was his head trainer for the fight.
It's weird. I mean, he's a good fighter. Like, he has a great mind for the sport, honestly. But still, I mean, get a guy that's like his job is to train, not to be a fighter. You know, they're just different.
Right. All right. The actual hooker fight. I wasn't that. It wasn't like the Figueroa fight where it was just disheartened. It's just Ramirez was a lot better than I thought. Like, I don't think Hooker fought poorly. I don't think he didn't show up like Figueroa. I just think Ramirez was a lot better than I gave him credit for.
I think we all gave him credit for it.
I mean, I didn't think he'd be able to get on the inside and without like trying to bum rush him and eating a ton of right hands. I didn't think that he was as quick. There was really no difference in the hand speed. Like Ramirez was just as quick as Hooker was, which I was not expecting at all.
No, he was quicker.
Ramirez was just. You think he was even quicker?
Yeah, I think he was quicker.
His timing was definitely impeccable. I mean, he was just a lot better than I thought, and I think, I don't think he beats Prograis, but I think he gives Josh Taylor help.
Gary, who do you think's better, Ramirez or Mikey? I was thinking about that after the fight. Like, damn, both in the same camp, obviously both the same trainer, and they fight so much similar to each other. But damn, Ramirez just looked. His lateral movement looked like something Mikey just never had in his entire life.
He was still eating shots, though.
He was.
Outside of the Spence fight, you don't see Mikey eating a whole lot of shots. I think
Lipinets, Salido landed some good shots. You know.
Yeah, and so did Easter. No, you're right. I guess he does eat some shots. A week ago I would have laughed at that question. But
right?
I think really it's a legitimate question. Yeah.
And it's largely due to just like, what have you done for me lately? Mikey hasn't been great lately, while Ramirez has probably had his career best fight this weekend, and he looked
for sure
great in it too. It's not like it was just a war where Ramirez dug deep and he was he just got through it by grit and determination. No, he outskilled Hooker. Like, that's what got him the win. Not only was his will and determination, that sort of grit to that team that they all possess, but that lateral movement, the jab, the head movement at times, the game plan was there, the body work. I mean, that was just fantastic stuff. Like, Mikey hasn't done that sort of, he hasn't had that sort of fight in maybe a long time.
No, and I mean, obviously, you would assume we would never get that fight, right? Because
Yeah, of course.
not only in the same camp, they're best of friends, and like that's probably just not going to happen.
Yeah, they're not, that's not going to happen, trust me.
That'd be an interesting fight.
I bet the sparring
I don't
sessions
know.
are fun. I'll put it that way. I bet the sparring sessions are really fun.
And with Virgil, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think. I mean, I thought Hooker fought the fight that he was supposed to fight. I think that in the second round he got caught up in the ropes way too much, and I think the body shots and the mauling wore him out a little bit. He's got to learn to tie up a little better when Ramirez was able to get on the inside. Because you go back to the second round, Hooker's basically got his back to the rope for the final minute of the round.
Mm-hmm.
He can't do that. He's got to tie him up and smother him because that's not his fight, obviously, on the inside. But no, I mean, I don't think. Did you think Hooker fought poorly? I mean, did you think he didn't fight well, or do you think Ramirez was just better?
I think Ramirez was just better, to be honest. Like, Ramirez was probably better in almost every single category. Just being honest.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't really, I wasn't really broken up about the loss. Like, if Canelo went in and beat Charlo, sure, it would suck, but Canelo's better, right? Like, what are you gonna do about it? You lost to a guy that was better than you, With Omar Figueroa, there's just so much wasted talent. You don't know what the hell happened to the guy. But no, Ramirez is better than Hooker. Canelo's just better than Charlo. There's nothing you can do about that. But 140 looks really, really interesting right now. All three of those guys, Taylor, Ramirez, and well, first I want to ask you about Hooker. Do you think he was worn out from the weight cut?
No.
You don't think so? You don't think it had anything to do with it?
No, I don't think so.
Because he looked shot. Like, in the fifth round, he was still hanging in the fight, but you could see the movement was gone. There wasn't much snap on his punches. Like, I knew.
I'll put it this way:
the fifth round,
if Ramirez was headhunting and that's what happened, maybe. But Ramirez was viciously attacking and brutalizing Hooker's body, so
sure. Yeah.
I just think that that's the more plausible reason why he was sucking wind in the fifth and sixth round, because those body shots were consistent, brutal, and they never stopped.
Right. So you're saying that that was induced by Ramirez, not by the weight cut. The lack of movement and fatigue you saw in the fifth round and sixth round from Hooker. It's probably true. What about Hooker going to 47? I mean, that's going to be rough, especially as defensively flawed as Hooker is. Although his defense is better than it was, say, 2 years ago, he still gets hit a ton, and he still has like moments where it's like James Harden, right? Like James Harden, is like, dude, what are you doing? You're just standing there. Like, Hooker's got moments like that. Like, dude, that's what he got knocked out on. Now, I'm sure the body attack wore him down, and there was a reason for that. But it's like, what are you doing? You're getting hit. You didn't see that shot coming. You want to move your head, pick your head, like do something, right? Like Hooker has these moments where he just gets hit with shots. It's like, dude, pick your hands. Even when he fought the other guy on the Raw undercard, that guy was 2 levels below him. And Hooker got hit with some shots. It's like, why are you getting hit with those? Like, is it just like focus? Like, it seems to be a lack of focus or something sometimes with Hooker. And when you fight a guy like Danny Garcia or Errol Spence or Keith Thurman, or Ramirez, like one moment can end the fight.
You know what also is? I don't think it's a focus thing, to be quite honest. I think like Hooker's just one of those guys that he's tall and awkward. And like that's kind of it. Like, that's why his head movement really isn't there, like the way it should be, when his footwork is really great. Like, if he had great waist movement and head movement, he would be a far more efficient fighter, defensively speaking, because his footwork's there, largely speaking. But he can't dodge out of shots because why? He's too tall and awkward. Like, he's the kid that, like, grew from like 5'2" to 3 to like 6'2" from like 8th grade to ninth grade, right? Like over like one summer. He's that kid. So I just see him as like a gangly, awkward person, and like that reflects itself in his fighting style. The way he punches at time is awkward. You know, like there's just an awkwardness to him, period. Full stop. So I don't think it's really about him being not focused. I think it's about him just being an awkward person in terms of
awkward guy,
in terms of body composition, kind of, and sort of like a newborn baby deer. You know, not to be offensive, like that's sort of how it is. I think we all have those friends that were like that. And when he gets pressured, that really shows up because he can't really dodge out of shots because his body either doesn't allow him to do it or he's not used to it just as a person because he's an awkward, tall, gangly person.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean that's so. But like,
And also, I'll be honest, Gary. Like there is a ceiling to Maurice Hooker, and he had a bunch of good fights. So we were trying to our opinion of him was rapidly changing. But there was still a ceiling there. If you go back and watch his fights, there's still that ceiling. And Ramirez just overcame that ceiling in a way.
I think we saw that ceiling. Again, for Ramirez, it's like, okay, Ramirez is that good. Hooker's not. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, yeah. I think Vincent Parra and that team did a great job in getting everything they could get out of him, but I think that's as good as it gets. But like, I don't think if you gave him to any other trainer, they're going to get any more out of him. Like, I think that's kind of as good as. Well, he's 29 now. Right? He's not young anymore. So like, that's as good as Hooker gets, right? Like, and it's not good enough to beat Ramirez. It's not good enough to beat. It won't be good enough to beat Rooker. It won't be good enough to beat Josh Taylor. It's just good enough to beat everybody else, but it's not going to beat those guys.
Yep. I agree.
Kevin Farmer. He is great at making you miss, but not at making you pay.
Yep.
I mean, I don't see him. Like, I love Kevin Farmer. I'm a fan of his story. Like, he's a smart guy. He's a great interview. There's no way he's going to beat Burchell because you can't make him pay. And Burchell's going to swarm him and eventually stop him. Right?
Yeah, probably.
He's not going to be able to keep Burchell off of him for 12 rounds. And I think Tank beats him too. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I think Tank will eventually catch him and swarm him, and he's not going to be able to do anything about it.
And if we're being real honest, if we're being real honest, guys like Cancio and Jojo Diaz, they're going to give him that work. Honestly, guys.
Jojo Diaz. Cancio was the one I was thinking. Like, that would be a really fun fight.
Yeah.
Like a Bull versus Matador thing. Like, I would really like to see that fight.
I agree.
I guess they could make it, right? Like, if Oscar and Eddie wanted to work together, which I don't know if they're going to do.
No, they will. You know why?
Because Canelo. Because they have to.
Well, no, because DAZN literally invested money into Golden Boy. So now DAZN's like a pseudo-primary investor of Golden Boy. So, yeah, if DAZN wants Cancio versus Farmer to main event some Fantasy Springs card or some Philly card, yeah, that's fucking happening because DAZN is going to tell the Golden Boy what to do.
You know, Golden Boy would make that fight for sure. I was saying Eddie, in my mind, Eddie would be hesitant. Like, what does Eddie have to gain from putting Tevin in with Cancio? Right? Like, outside of hardcores, nobody cares what Cancio is. You know what I'm saying? Tevin has a little following. Like, Tevin versus Tank. Who do you think's the bigger name in that fight?
Come on, man, Tank.
Tank doesn't do numbers though. When you did his fight against Hugo Boss, did like about 300,000 views. Like,
but hey, we've talked about this before, right? Showtime numbers need to be reevaluated from us as fans because their new show, City on a Hill, debuted or had their premiere episode at like a live viewership of like 500 something thousand viewers. Guys, like, nope, like a 300 plus thousand average viewership of a boxing show that is on average much cheaper to produce by the network. It's probably fine for them. On top of that, I will add, Tank is a really good ticket seller. Like, he just sold 14,000 seats in Baltimore.
Yeah, no,
that's pretty good. Against a
do
guy
it,
that
right?
no one knows, no
No
one
one's
cares
heard.
about. Like, that's a really good attendance figure. Even if the prices were
That
cheap.
is a really good number. Because there's no way Hooker and Ramirez are anywhere close to 4. Did you get an attendance number on that? There was nowhere near.
No, I didn't
14,000,
see
probably
one,
half that.
but I was looking at the venue, and damn, it looked like it was small and looked like it really wasn't that, like, filled out at times. Like, it was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, the place probably held, 10 for a basketball game. Then you put some on the seats, maybe it holds 11.5 for boxing. But then there was an entire section closed off, and it wasn't sold out. So I'm guessing maybe 7,000 or 8,000. And that's for Hooker versus Ramirez.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not only do you have Hooker, but you have a large Mexican-American population who loves Ramirez. So, like, it was just Hooker selling those tickets. Oh, I'm sure he sold most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a noticeable Ramirez cheering section in the crowd. So, yeah, I mean, 14,000 in Baltimore to fight your Uber driver is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's,
and the support on the card was Gamboa and Jezreel Corrales.
So, who did you think won that fight? You thought Corrales won that fight,
Yeah,
right?
come on, man.
Yeah, okay. I haven't heard anyone say anything differently, but I didn't see Farhood score for Darius Miller.
I didn't see Farhood's scorecard for it, or at least I don't remember it. I should say.
I thought he scored at 5-5, and then the 1 point deduction he had at 95-94.
That is
I think.
That is sick. That is disgusting. Because I'll be honest, even with the point deduction, there's no way you fucking give that fight to Ladarius Miller. Sorry, Ladarius Miller, but like, you did nothing.
The one thing I thought Corrales won the fight too. I had it 7-3, and then so I had him up by 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
But you could say that you fell asleep watching the fight, and so you scored the rounds wrong, because that rivaled Easter versus Bartholomew as the most boring fight of the year. That was tough to watch.
Yeah, and it was funny because you could tell they were trying. Like Easter Bartholomew, they weren't trying. You know what I mean? Like this one, you can tell like Corrales was really trying to get a fight going, and Miller, like, just had no interest. He just kind of wanted to play like a spoiler, wanted to negate a lot of the offense and not throw anything back. And it produced a really ugly fight because Corrales can't set up shots quite well, to be honest. He needs someone to sort of let him set up his shots in a much easier fashion, and Ladarius Miller wasn't letting him set up easy fucking wide-ass hooks. It was bad. It was. I was frustrated as a Corrales fan.
And I got home. It was like 1 o'clock from the Hooker fight. I stayed up to watch that card, and it's like, thank God the other two fights ended early, because watching that at 1 o'clock in the morning is like cruel and unusual punishment. Trying to stay awake through that.
Yeah.
That's why I said I watched it. I scored both the rounds for Corrales, but I was also half falling asleep during that fight, so I could have missed things. Oh, I went back and I scored Jacobs Canelo again.
Oh, cool, because we were talking about that.
7-5, 8-4. It's the what I scored. It was 6 rounds for Canelo, 3 rounds for sure for Jacobs, and there were 3 rounds that I said were toss-up rounds. So, 6-3 with 3 toss-up rounds. I think 7-5, 8-4 were. And it all depends on how if you scored the first rounds for Jacobs, right? Most of the early rounds were the swing rounds. If you scored those for Jacobs, the fight's really close. If you scored for Canelo, it's one-sided.
The fight's one-sided.
I've watched it twice now. Both times, if you look at the fight as a whole, yeah, Canelo does the much better work. But there are rounds where you could make a good argument for Jacobs.
Sure, Gary.
Like if you gave it a 9-3 scorecard, I could see that for Canelo. If you scored at 6-6, you scored every close round for Jacobs, but I could see that too. You've given Jacobs every single close round, and probably one that he lost. But I could see that. But 8-4, 7-5, I think that's about right.
I think I had 9-3. Put it that way.
Was that live or when you went back and watched it?
I'm trying to think. I think live I had like 9-3 or something like that.
You could have it 9-3, but then you've given all the close rounds to Canelo.
Yeah, because
that's a reasonable scorecard.
Because Canelo was beating Jacobs every close round.
Again, if all three judges handed in a 117-111 scorecard, I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, they can also have closer. I think 7-5, 8-4. 8-4 is probably right. Like that's probably the best scorecard to hand in. What was the other fight I was supposed to go back and watch?
I'm trying to remember now as you were talking about it. I forget. There was another one, though. I forget, though.
Then I guess we'll do Tank Davis real quick. Yeah, he looks great. He looks spectacular. But this is like 2 years in a row now, but against who? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looks great. Like, why couldn't, like, we saw Caleb Plant blow out Mike Lee like he was supposed to. We saw Tank Davis blow out Amanda Nunez like he was supposed to. Why couldn't Charlo do that to Brandon Adams?
Man, you know what? That's the $1 million question for you Charlo fans. Because that's what I've been thinking about for a very long time since that fight, is that fight should not have looked like that at all. Like, something has fundamentally gone wrong with the Charlos. Because they had so much momentum. They looked so good on the come up. They had some really good wins, too, if you really think about it. And then all of a sudden, they just digressed significantly in terms of momentum and skill.
Yeah, you would say he's stuck in neutral, but he's clearly going in reverse. Like, he fought Brandon Ken Adams and got hit a lot. I mean, he probably won every round or 10, 11 rounds. But he got hit way too much and won the distance with Ken Adams. Like, go blow him out. Right? Just go in there and blow him out like Tank Davis did. That's exactly what Charlo was trying to do, but he couldn't land with anything. Right? Charlo was loading up. It wasn't like Charlo was putting on a Tevin Farmer performance and was just going to try him and make him miss the whole day. Like, Jamal was loading up. He was trying to get him out. He was trying to get a knockout for his hometown, and he couldn't do it against Brandon Adams and was eating a lot of hooks trying to do it. It's like, geez. No, I think that performance was worse than the Korobov performance. Because at least Korobov is pretty good. Brandon Adams, jeez. But, I mean, we're going to get Tank versus Gamboa next, and Tank should roll through him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know what they're going to say is that Gamboa wobbled Terrence Crawford, and look what Tank did to him. Right? Like, that's coming. But,
yep.
Look, Gamboa was a pound-for-pound top 10, 12, 15 guy at that time, right? 3 weight division champion. It wasn't like he was a bum, right? And how many times did Crawford knock him down? 6, 7 times? So, like, you wobbled me once, which he did, and I knocked you down 6 times. Was it 6 times or 7 times? How many times did Crawford knock Gamboa down?
Say 6.
Just 6. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the fight you're going to hold against me, against a world-class guy, an elite-level guy that I knocked down 6 times because he landed on me? We're going to fight. He's a world-class fighter. Of course he hit me, right? Like I never got that knock on Crawford that Gamboa hurt him. Okay, he knocked Gamboa down 6 times. Like, is that it? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, that's probably it.
All right.
Thank you for the call,
That's all I
Gary.
got.
Always appreciate it. Before I go to Santiago, reminding everyone, because everyone's mentioning it in the chat and having a discussion about it, Canelo and his decision is supposed to be made today regarding Derevchenko and DAZN and whether that fight's going to be approved by DAZN and whether he's going to be stripped. As far as we're live right here at 3 p.m. on the West Coast, no news has come out from that. When we do find out news, I will let you guys know. As soon as we know, you will know. Going out to Santiago in LA. Santiago, what's up?
Not much. Just happy to hear Gary on the call. And, we had some pretty impressive knockouts this past Saturday from Gamboa, Davis, and Ramirez. I honestly, part of the reason why I felt that Hooker might be able to, come away with the win against Ramirez had a lot to do with the way he was against Alex Saucedo. Because Alex Saucedo also brought it to him, and I had him to beat Hooker. I felt that his inconsistency was going to come back to bite him in that fight, and it didn't. Mm-hmm. He looked pretty good. And, as you were pointing out, too, because regardless of what you said that night, you did concede at least 2 rounds 10-10, which is how close that fight was for you. Fu only gave 1 round. Fu only gave 1 round to Hooker. I had 1 round I gave to Hooker, and 1 round I scored 10-10. So Hooker did pretty well, but Ramirez did everything he needed to do right against a guy who has, quote-unquote advantages over you. He worked the body against a taller fighter. He kept the fighting close against a guy with a much longer reach than him. And when it was all said and done, he came away with the win in brutal fashion too, no less, because 140 for a while wasn't really seen as anything special. It was seen as the gateway class to 147. We were looking at everyone else in there as okay, so who's the guy that's gonna
Hey, Santi,
come up next from 140 to?
Quick question: when did 140 get started? What year was that? Do you know? Curious.
I wouldn't know, to be honest with you. I'd have to really look back on that, considering, because all I can say is that it's around the 70s is when we started having the juniors and supers. Because obviously that Roberto Duran moved up to junior middleweight to fight Davey Moore before moving up to middleweight to fight Iran Barkley. Hearns, after the loss to Sugar Ray Leonard, was rebuilding at junior middleweight before taking on Marvin Hagler. So I'd have to really look back through the history books to give you a straight answer. But when I do, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
But 140 had a strange history, to say the least, because it was, like I said, it was seen as the gateway class, and then cruiserweight itself was more or less the guys that were too big to be light heavy but too small to be heavyweights. And it wasn't until the World Boxing Super Series came around that the cruiserweight started getting some kind of shine to it. Post the Crawford era of 140, we've got some good fighters coming out. We've got some good fights coming around from them too. And so I'm looking forward to seeing, the next fights that come out of it. I think Crawford has some kind of a point when he says that there is no street, because obviously, as you know, Top Rank, ESPN, Ramirez, and then Hooker with the Zone and Matchroom, Eddie Hearn. I think in a time where it seems like we're not going to get the fights because of some kind of allegiance, it's actually the time to make these fights. We saw that with Ruiz and Joshua, where we see that with Ramirez and Hooker, and obviously there will be no complications trying to make the fight between the winner of Taylor and Prograis, because they're both on the Zone. But I could see a lot of good fights being made. Obviously, with Davis's last couple of fights being just Info Joe put it best. Info Joe put it best when he said that we're tired of seeing fights that Davis has put up against where we already know he's going to win. It's an afterthought at that point. We look at the undercard just to see whether or not it's even worth watching at that point. Jezreel Corrales coming back. Love Jezreel Corrales. You and I got to see him fight live. Yuriorkis Gamboa, been around for a long time, had an impressive performance. Gervonta Davis taking on Ricardo Nunez, who is the quote-unquote WBA mandatory. Who gave a shit? Who really gave a shit except for everyone in Baltimore? No offense to them.
Probably.
So I'm with you.
I mean, I'll be honest with
you
you,
know.
Santi. The fight I wanted from that card to watch the most was the Miller Corrales fight. That was the most competitive fight in terms of like on paper. It didn't produce the best action, but on paper that was the best fight on the card. But I'm a hardcore degenerate.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean
handedly.
anything.
No, and I mean, be real. Like, Martinez Gamboa should have been the opener just because of how long these guys have been.
Yes.
You know, they have to be long in the tooth for anyone that's heard these guys' names. You know, so the fact that they were the co-main and Jezreel Corrales wasn't, you know, it was just kind of like, okay, weird ordering, but whatever. You know, at least these
I
guys,
got
at
it.
least we're supposed to get some.
I got it though, because like you said, like Gamboa, Martinez are names that have been on TV a lot, been on HBO, have been on a ton of networks. Like they're known, they're traveled. You know, I'm not surprised, so to speak. But on paper, that was the lesser matchup.
Yeah, man. So I'm curious though. What are your thoughts that if they do make Davis Gamboa next? Because he looked pretty bulky to me, you know, in this fight. I think now he's at a point where he's comfortably making 135. I don't know if now he can make 130.
Yeah, I don't know if Gamboa can make 130, man, at all. Like he's looking big. But then again, like I could see Davis having like a one-off fight at 135 because he cuts a ton of weight. You can tell just on the look on his face out of camp and out of fight is insane. And you can tell it's a tough weight cut for him because similar to like a Callum Smith, his face looks largely the same on weigh-in and on fight night. And that's a big issue. Usually you see people's, like, when they get that sucked-in look, their face sort of fills back in when they sort of can drink water, can eat food again, you know. Theirs don't. And that's because they are cutting a massive amount of weight. And, we know that Davis has been talking about 135 for some time. Is that a possibility? I don't know. But 130 for Gamboa, that seems far more unrealistic than 135 for Gervonta Davis.
Agreed, for sure. We'll see what's next, but obviously whoever is next, you know, unless it's one of the top guys at 130, you know, or, you know, I guess the one-off with Gamboa at 135, honestly, I could care less to see who he fights again because, you know, yeah, these fights are predictable. You know, either they're subpar like they was when he lost the IBF belt, or they're against guys that are undersized or people that don't deserve to be in the same ring as Gervonta Davis, because he showed that in the Jose Pedraza fight he is at that world level, but he has not had world level competition since becoming champion at all. So that's my take on him for that, at least. You know, I'm more excited to see, you know, what happens at 140, you know, World Boxing Super Series getting the shit in order, and this Saturday, you know, I'm looking forward to this Saturday. I'm pretty sure you know why, and I'm looking forward to the preview show. So if you have any questions regarding any of the other topics at hand, feel free to shoot. Otherwise, that's my call. I'm going to be taking off to the gym. I'll meet Ferngully there later. If you're free, feel free to shoot. Everyone that's been listening to the show, hit that like button, share, subscribe. You know, even when Rob and Fu are unavailable, Matt always holds down the fort as best he can. And he never fails to disappoint with the news and good conversation.
Santi, I'll be honest, I really haven't looked at the schedule this weekend, other than like knowing that Wanaki is this weekend. What are you looking forward to this weekend? What am I forgetting? What have I not looked at that I need to look at that I am spacing on?
No. You pretty much nailed it ahead. And that's just because I'm a big Chris Arreola fan, man. I've always been a big Chris Arreola fan. He was the guy that Andy Ruiz became.
Chris Arreola laid the groundwork for a guy like Andy Ruiz to exist.
Yes, he did. It's a damn shame he never got to be to the mountain. He came close. He had 3 tries.
Here's another comparison.
3 strikes and you're out.
Here's another comparison. It's a really bad one, but we make it. Chris Arreola is the Quincy Jones to Andy Ruiz's Michael Jackson.
I got nothing to. I got nothing to say.
You know it's true.
Chuckle, and if you're at the gym,
You know it's true. Have a good one,
Shut
Santi.
up, fucker. If you're at
Have a good one, Santi. And that'll be it for today. But before we leave, last bit of promo. We're going to be back on later tonight for a live show on our new channel, Trending Now Network. Yes, go subscribe. Go do it right now. Our new channel. We're going to talk about the Marvel universe and all the new plans for Phase 4, Phase 5 tonight. Obviously, the new Blade movie that's coming out, Mahershala Ali. God, I'm so fucking excited for that. Fantastic Four, Mutants, a bunch of stuff. And plus, check out our latest episode, our Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spoiler review episode. Go check it out. Everyone, have a great day, great night, great evening, wherever you are. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. And what else? That's it. Go Trending Now Network right now. Subscribe. Do it. Go do it right now. Peace.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
You disrespect boxing, you piece of shit? I am Phil. I'm very Phil.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?